The climate crisis has become the most urgent challenge of our time, so teleSUR has prepared a special program not only to show the difficulties it presents, but also to showcase the heroes and the innovations that are rewriting our future. The fate of the planet is in our hands, so let's begin the program. We begin our special program by informing you that the indicators are irrefutable. The planet faces a new normal of extreme weather conditions, a direct consequence of human activity. Droughts are devastating crops, and rising sea levels are eroding coastlines, severely impacting vulnerable regions such as Latin America and the Caribbean. Official data from the World Meteorological Organization have reported that 2025 is shaping up to be one of the warmest years on record, confirming an unsustainable trend toward global warming. This period has been defined by a series of extreme weather events, including historic heat waves, torrential rainfall, massive floods, and large-scale wildfires. As a result, millions of people have been forced to flee their homes, creating a crisis with profound socio-economic repercussions that extend across Africa and Asia. Asia has been one of the continents most affected by extreme weather events in 2025. The UN warned of the severe impacts on the region. Storms have left hundreds of dead and millions affected. Next, a look at the most impactful events throughout the year. The devastation were evident along the coast of Thailand, with submerged houses and streets transformed into rivers, a stark illustration of the current rainy and typhoon season in Asia, the most severe one in recent years. In northern Vietnam, entire harvests were swept away by the floodwaters, with army helicopters circling the mountain regions in search of trapped residents. In October of this year, the World Meteorological Organization reported that climate change was increasing the strength and frequency of typhoons and floods across the continent. Warming oceans provide more energy to storms, making them more violent and unpredictable. The death toll has risen significantly following torrential rains in early October that struck northern India, leaving more than 110 people dead, according to figures released by the government of the country. In Nepal, the rains caused at least 92 deaths and dozens of missing persons, according to the Ministry of the Interior. On the other hand, the National Disaster Management Department have reported that more than 7,000 families were displaced and 500 homes were destroyed. Meanwhile, in China, Super Typhoon Rasa left 17 dead in Taiwan province, forcing the evacuation of nearly 2 million people on the mainland later. Typhoon Matmo struck Guangdong and Hainan provinces, displacing 347,000 people. Experts from the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations warn that the rate of intensifying of climate events in Asia exceeds the global average, putting pressure on governments to strengthen adaptation policies, resilient infrastructure, and evacuation plans. Asia is now facing not only the force of nature, but also the need to transform its resilience to phenomena that pose significant risks to the planet. The devastating floods in the south and southeast of Asia have left thousands of dead and hundreds missing. Different weather phenomena triggered flash floods in Sri Lanka, parts of the Indonesian island of Sumatra, southern Thailand, and northern Malaysia. Despite the arrival of aid, the population has criticized the response to these floods. The current swept me away, all the houses collapsed, my neck was trapped in the sink debris falling from above. Then my house collapsed and dragged me down. Entire towns were flooded, and numerous communities remained without electricity after Typhoon One swept through the Philippines, displacing more than 1 million people. It is tough because it keeps raining. Who knows what will happen to the people here? The river will rise. Our situation is difficult because there's water everywhere. We don't know how we're going to be able to keep working. I am not sure of what happened with my house. The electrical system might be damaged, the walls might have cracks, and all of it will need repairs. It is possible that the entire structure has weakened. During 2025, the European continent experienced alarming heat waves, with several countries facing one of the hottest summers in recent years. This was compounded with severe droughts in the south and southeast of the continent, leading to wildfires and seriously impacting the health and daily lives of citizens, as well as of those urban ecosystems. Large areas of the southwestern and central Europe were affected by a vast dry anticyclone known as a heat dome. This pushed temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, triggering red alerts, damaging infrastructure, and causing wildfires within the context of accelerated global warming. These events had cascading consequences for people, their livelihoods, and food systems. This prompted many people from multiple regions to migrate and hindered sustainable development and economic progress. The mortality rate from the extreme temperatures in Spain, UK, and Portugal is estimated at over 16,500 attributable deaths, with the elderly and vulnerable people with underlying health conditions being the most affected. Furthermore, France, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Turkey suffered devastating wildfires that burned over 1 million hectares, breaking records. The economic impact in Spain saw a 14% increase in electricity demand, driving prices up to 15%, which led to an immediate economic loss estimated at over 43 billion euros across the European Union due to extreme weather events. Another consequence in Spain was energy poverty, with households unable to maintain adequate temperatures, prompting changes in welfare policies. Severe impacts on public health, the economy, and security highlight the urgent need for climate adaptation measures that governments must implement to safeguard their population safety in the face of increasingly severe heat waves in the coming years. Africa is not far behind in the climate change challenges that it faced in 2025, experiencing severe droughts and water crises, particularly in the regions such as Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and parts of Tanzania and Madagascar. Prolonged dry periods have persisted for 3 years, and in 2025 they have had serious consequences, including food crisis and crop failures at the beginning of the year. 5 countries in the region declared a state of national disaster due to drought, including Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, and Zambia, while Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Angola also continue to be severely affected, leaving the World Food Program with only $147 million to provide food and cash assistance to more than 7.2 million people across the region until March 2025. Meanwhile, the UN warned that extreme heat was already a global health emergency, specifically with the heat waves in North Africa, which triggered sandstorms and severe problems with access to water, food, and basic services. Let's review some of the effects of natural phenomena that have affected health of the African continent. During 2025, health risks to the African population have significantly worsened, intensifying pre-existing problems and creating new vulnerabilities such as an increase in vector-borne and waterborne diseases. These same natural factors that have caused rising temperatures and altered rainfall patterns have expanded the habitat of mosquitoes and other vectors, leading to an increased risk and incidence of diseases like malaria throughout 2025. Malaria and cholera have notably impacted the health of the population. Millions of people were exposed to a greater risk of contracting malaria due to the spread of disease-carrying mosquitoes to new geographic areas and higher altitudes that were previously cold. The WHO African region already bears a disproportionate global burden of this disease. Meanwhile, waterborne diseases such as acute watery diarrhea intensified, particularly in countries affected by extreme flooding or, paradoxically, by a lack of safe drinking water due to droughts. Extreme heat in the region affects agriculture, labor productivity, and disrupts education, indirectly contributing to food insecurity and malnutrition, a key risk factor for many other diseases. These events cause loss of life and damage to vital infrastructure, including health facilities, leaving a complex humanitarian crisis not only for 2025 but also into early 2026. The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention noted that a review of public health events between 2001 and 2021 indicated that 56% were related to climate change, highlighting the urgent need to strengthen health systems to make them more resilient to climate change. In September, the second Africa-Ethiopia 2025 Climate Summit was held, aiming to create an Africa that leads the fight against climate change and to achieve African solutions to African problems. At the summit, African leaders adopted a joint declaration calling for a strengthened and sustained support to boost the implementation of African-led climate initiatives. Furthermore, the meeting emphasized that African climate initiatives aim to mobilize resources for Africa's green development and position the continent at the forefront of innovative indigenous climate solutions. The second African Climate Summit was marked by proposals on how to tackle heat waves, tree planting campaigns, and a powerful declaration of Africa's commitment to forging a prosperous, resilient, and green continent. It's time for a break. We'll be back with more from this special program on the climate crisis. We're back with this special program on the climate crisis, focusing on a crisis that is redefining our present and future, the impact of climate change in Latin America and the Caribbean. Our region is one of the most affected, despite being one of the least polluting globally. Hurricane Melissa, the strongest storm in Jamaica's history, made landfall in the southwest of the island on October 28th of 2025. It was the area that felt the effects of the cyclone most accurately, the most intense of the season in the Atlantic. Melissa passed through Jamaica as a Category 5 hurricane, becoming the strongest storm ever recorded on this Caribbean island of 2.8 million inhabitants. The winds uprooted trees and power lines, and the rough seas caused the death of several people. It devastated communities across the island with winds up to 280 kilometers per hour, torrential rains, and storm surges that destroyed homes. All of this left the island in a state of emergency. Various international programs worked tirelessly to support the Jamaican government as the island nation faced one of the worst disasters in its history, with thousands of people displaced. In Haiti, Hurricane Melissa was a powerful storm in 2025 that ravaged the Caribbean island, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake, with severe infrastructure damage, agricultural losses, and at least 43 deaths in Haiti. The FAO reported that more than 1.4 million people faced acute food insecurity, including 350,000 in emergency situations. UNICEF distributed 2,900 hygiene kits and emergency health equipment to 20,000 people and provided cash transfers to 7,500 vulnerable households. The Haitian government reported that the storm left fatalities and missing persons, while rescue teams continued trying to reach people in the southeastern region of the country, where landslides and flooding devastated more than 30 communities. The Category 5 storm, one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded in the Atlantic, made it clear that nature is unpredictable and that innovation is needed in how we respond to increasingly powerful and intense storms.
El oriente de Cuba también se vio afectado por el paso del huracán Melissa. Las autoridades nacionales.
Eastern Cuba was also affected by Hurricane Melissa. National authorities prepared for the impact of the weather phenomenon that caused enormous damage. Our correspondent Jordanis Rodriguez Laurencio brings us the details. It is a pleasure to greet you from the eastern part of Cuba. Since Hurricane Melissa made landfall, the country has faced one of the most complex hydrometeorological events in recent years. We're talking about heavy rains, intense winds, and severe flooding, which particularly affected the eastern provinces, causing significant damage to homes, roads, agriculture, and basic services. Melissa, I'm telling you that it moved through coastal and inland areas, causing rivers to swell, floodings, and leaving communities isolated, directly impacting thousands of families. However, from the very first hours, Cuba activated its response mechanisms, prioritizing the protection of the population. More than a month after it passed, the country is now at a crucial stage. We are referring to the recovery efforts on roads, in production centers, and in affected communities. Brigades are working tirelessly to restore vitality to these areas here in eastern Cuba. And in Santiago de Cuba, strategic roads are being rebuilt, services are being restored, and food production is being boosted once again. This process has been supported by a constant solidarity. The Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America has once again joined forces with our brothers and sisters in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Venezuelan brigades are working side by side with Cuba's Ministry of Construction on the rehabilitation of road infrastructure aid, what complements the arrival of solidarity shipments containing supplies, food, and vital resources for the recovery. Other countries and international organizations have also joined in, reaffirming their support for Cuba during this challenging time and demonstrating that in the face of adversity, solidarity can save lives. Today, I tell you, this nation is moving forward amidst challenges and collective effort. The country is rising with the support of its institutions, its people, and above all, the helping hand of those who believe in cooperation and brotherhood. Thus, in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, the recovery not only rebuilds infrastructure but also strengthens unity and hope. This is how we say goodbye from Santiago de Cuba. Venezuela faced the effects of the climate crisis in 2025. The rainy season was not a simple seasonal change and left damage to infrastructure and family belongings. The state of Apure in the Llanos region of Venezuela was the first to experience the effects, with communities affected from the very beginning of the year due to the intense rains. Tropical wave number 9 struck the state of Merida in the Andean region with more than 150 millimeters of rain in just 8 hours. This disproportionate downpour unleashed chaos. Flash floods, landslides, and rivers overflowed their banks, extending the emergency to several states.
La crisis climática también golpea con fuerza a la zona andina de Latinoamérica. Hoy nos detenemos en
The
Bolivia.
climate crisis is also hitting the Andean region of Latin America hard. Today we focus on Bolivia, which has just finished its wildfire season, but the data shows significant progress in the fight against the fire. Since the beginning of 2025, more than 371,000 hotspots have been recorded in Bolivia. While the figure is high, it represents a drastic reduction compared to the same period in 2024, when it exceeded 2.5 million. This containment was not accidental, it was the result of an unprecedented operational response coordinated by the Joint Command for Adverse Event Response. Between June and October of this year, 169 forest fires were extinguished nationwide. To this end, a massive operation involving nearly 2,900 military personnel was deployed, participating in 180 air and ground operations and mobilizing 199 vehicles and aircraft. The final tally indicates that Bolivia concludes this phase with a significant reduction in wildfires, and authorities attribute this achievement to three key pillars: coordinated prevention efforts between the national government, departments, and municipalities, investment in equipment, and, above all, the timely and dedicated action of the armed forces. And in Brazil, a study revealed that 2025 is one of the worst years on record for the country, with at least 90 tornadoes. Our colleague Andre Vieira shares the details. How are you? Greetings to you and to our national audience. A study by Brazil's National Institute for Space Research reveals that 2025 is already one of the worst years for tornadoes in this South American nation. The institute states that nearly 90 tornadoes have already been recorded just this year, the most recent one occurring on December 8th in the city of Flores da Cunha in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, southern Brazil. 3 other tornadoes were also recorded on November 7th, resulting in 7 deaths in 3 cities in the state of Paraná. In fact, southern Brazil, encompassing the states of Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul, and Santa Catarina, is the region most affected by these tornadoes due to a combination of a hot, humid air mass originating in the Amazon and a cold, dry air mass coming from Argentina. This convergence generates various storms that produce tornadoes here in Brazil. It's also important to note that nearly 90 tornadoes were recorded in 2025, almost double the 55 that were recorded in 2021, and surpassing the 88 that were recorded in 2023. According to scientists, this is also attributed to global warming and to climate change, not only in the country of Brazil, but also worldwide, which may be contributing to this increase in tornadoes in our region. This is a brief overview from the National Institute for Space Research here in Brazil, alerting the world to the effects of this climate crisis that we're also experiencing here in the South American giant. Onward, comrades. Like this concludes our program on the climate crisis. Remember, the planet is in our hands.